So this is happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fun fact, my dad just told me. 2 biggest fears known to society. Public speaking and dying, in that order. But I'm going to give this a shot. So, most of you probably know who I am. Some of you, well, I know almost all of you have seen me behind that little plexiglass window back there, do my thing on Sundays. But those of you who probably don't know me personally, my name is Teddy Nordvold. I'm the son of Rick and Stacy, grandson of Ted, who's also here, brother to Libby. And I've been a member of this congregation here since July of 2000, so this has been my spiritual home all life. So, the church, I've gone through a lot of change, particularly in recent years, but throughout my entire life, this church has kind of remained the one constant, because this is where I've grown up, and this is where my faith has grown and evolved. So back when I was baptized, that's where my faith journey began. And the seeds were planted as an infant, because I learned the prayers kind of through rote. They didn't really hold much meaning back then, because I was just mimicking the vocal tones of my parents and my older sister. But throughout the years, I was told about God, and I learned more about him and his works. And I learned more about him on Sunday school, and we were good friends with many people through church. For instance, Tamara, and we were good friends with the old pastors back then, Jim, and we remain so today, Jim and Sandy Roschler. And I learned about God through them too. And I also learned about God through programs like VeggieTales. I still watch those occasionally, not gonna lie. And as I matured, these words began to hold more meaning. And I actually became aware of God's presence in my life sometimes. It still remains difficult to feel today. But I had these little instances, particularly when I hurt myself. So on my 6th birthday, I got a rather nasty present, which was a trip to the hospital because of gastritis. And I still remember lying on the table, and I was in considerable pain. But even when the doctors and my parents weren't there, I felt just comforted by something. And looking back on it, I'm pretty sure that was him. But I fell and smashed my face on a table in preschool. My mom remembers this well. And my scars were about from here all the way across 2 lines, and they've healed almost perfectly. In fact, they're barely even noticeable today. They're almost completely clear. And I'm just so thankful that I had such a speedy and perfect recovery, because I was worried I was going to look like this for a while. And I felt these presences occasionally, but it was still kind of difficult to see him in my life. I mean, it was more kind of a routine thing, just going to church on Sundays and seeing all my friends in Christ, and it kind of became kind of like school. I mean, I'd learn about him, but it never really felt solid and secure. And then back in 2008, sure probably you all remember, we got hit pretty hard by an economic recession. And my school at the time, which was Jonathan Elementary School, a bit up the road down there, lost a lot of its programs, which I was enrolled in. So my parents made the decision to switch schools, me and my little sister. And this was a rather hard hit for 9-year-old me, because I was plucked out of my friend group and all the people I knew at the school and dropped down in a completely fresh situation. And this was one of the times when I really prayed, because I knew nothing. That summer leading up to was genuinely terrifying, because I was certain I was going to be bullied, and I wouldn't know anyone forever, and I'd be that kid alone at the lunch table. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. But I'm so glad I prayed, because when the switch actually happened and the first day I walked in, I was instantly just accepted by everyone, and the transition went perfectly, and I'm so glad I'm fully support the decision I made, because I wouldn't be where I am academically and with sports and music as I am today if they hadn't made that switch, so thank you. Mm-hmm. But here I also began 2 long journeys, because 4th grade was also the year in which I began to really invest in my music career. I started regularly attending drum lessons, and I learned about the history of the swim team in my family, because my dad was a swimmer and so was my grandpa. So I decided to take it up, and I've been a letter-winning athlete for 2 years in varsity now, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I'm so glad that I'm able to do what I'm doing today with Dennis and the rest of the guys, and Matt and Franco, and provide music for you guys. And my musical career and my sports career really began to solidify. And another change also happened before I knew it, because those last 2 years of elementary school kind of flew. And before I knew it, I was in big, scary middle school with like full multiple classes and dun-dun-duh, lockers. But at the same time, I also began to experience a big change in my faith, because I also kind of moved up a level here. I no longer attended Sunday school, and I started confirmation, and I became a kind of full-time student. So as I was going through confirmation, I'm glad I had such a beautiful teacher and incredible, she's my mom, by the way. And I began to learn more in depth, and my faith started to finally solidify. And this also, and as this was happening, I was also becoming a much more active musician in the church band and my bands at school. I enrolled in the jazz band, and I'm now the drummer for the varsity jazz band at the school, at my high school. And music was really becoming a key part of my life, and it remains so today. So I was really enjoying myself with music, and I came to realize that music is one of the greatest gifts ever given to society by God. It's seemingly the one thing that everyone in the world enjoys. I mean, granted, some resent certain genres, but everyone enjoys some kind. I guarantee you cannot find one person who doesn't enjoy music, at least to some degree. And it's kind of a universal language as well. I mean, granted, we sing it in different languages, and we have countless different styles, but the rhythm and the sense are all the same, and we can all sense each other's meaning, and we can all enjoy and take part in it, and it's a beautiful thing. So everyone can take part in music some way as well. We can all sing together in church, and we lift our hands and voices, unites it and heals us. And in this, I realized that music is probably the voice of God. Everyone can listen to it and be healed, and it permeates the fabric of life, even in natural, because even nature has its own kind of music with the rolls of thunder and the wisps of wind and the rustling of leaves. And it shapes our actions and emotions. And so music had become a big part of my life, and it still is. And I became really a lot invested in faith, and I remain so today. But a couple years ago, something kind of hit pretty hard that really kind of like smacked me in the face a little. So my family really enjoys each other's company. We conglomerate all the time from huge distances, and we have these big meetups in which people kind of wonder who those crazy Norwegians are. But we all enjoy each other. I love every single member of my dad's side, my mom's side, and we're all really close-knit. And we got hit pretty hard recently because my dad's cousin, Eric Brown, was diagnosed with terminal ALS 3 years ago. And it was really sad for a lot of us because he had grown up as a really kind of friend figure for my dad, and so had his sister. And it's before he left us, which was last March, so it's been almost a year since he died, he gave a talk. He spoke to a number of physicians and doctors because he was a well-respected figure in the medical field. And he talked about how much we take life for granted. And I know this has been said a million times, but we really do. Because we wake up every day and we're fiddling with our little problems, and we never really realize just how lucky we are to be here. Because it was an infinitely small chance that God put the earth exactly the right distance from the sun, with exactly the right elements to form life, with the miracle chemical reaction that should have never happened in the first place. The odds were that small. That we could blossom from little microbes to plants and flowers and eventually birds and fish and land creatures to us. We have thought, we can interact, we can touch things, we can read books, we can create incredible pieces of technology. This has become kind of the norm for us. We're so used to it now that we don't really realize just how incredible thing it is. And as we close our journey through Lent, which is this last week now, and we're moving towards the rebirth of Christ and his ascension to heaven, I really hope we can start to appreciate that, because some things won't last forever. Like Jesus, for example, even though that's kind of a bad example, but still. We really need to appreciate it, because gifts like this really rarely ever come. And as we go forward, I want us to hold that in our hearts. And as we're reborn, reborn with Christ, and we're forgiven and ascended into heaven. Remember how lucky you are. Thank you.